Hello, third graders. This is Miss Kirkpatrick, and today we're talking about motivation. Motivation is what the character wants. We are also learning how their motivation changes their actions. And when you are done with today, you should be able to say, I can use what I know about characters, feelings, and actions to explain their motivations. Characters often are like regular people. There are things that they want and things that they want to avoid. We call these things their motivations. That's a fancy word for saying what they want. I know that if there's something I really want, I have to do things in order to get it. I might have to study hard to get a good grade. I might have to work to earn money so that I can buy a cool toy or earn a cool vacation. What I want might be the good grade, cool toy, or cool vacation. These are my motivations. We see our motivational penguin in the bottom right saying, you can do it. Believe in yourself. Work hard. So when we are motivated, we are working hard to reach a goal or to avoid something we don't want happening. Characters' words and actions tell us what they want. Think back to the book Enemy Pie. You should be very familiar with this by now. I'm going to reread the first 3 pages, and I want you to think about what our main character wants. Okay? So how does our main character, who's the narrator, what does he say and do that helps us know what he really wants? So think about that while I'm reading. Good morning, everyone. I am Miss Kirkpatrick, and today we are going to be reading Enemy Pie by Derek Munson. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a tree house in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks, and I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been the perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood. He moved in right next door to my best friend Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend Stanley was. Jeremy Ross was the only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved to the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse where Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too, but he knew of a way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. Tell you how? I'll show you how, he said. He pulled a really old recipe book off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up, and I squinted at it. Enemy pie, he said, satisfied. The main character is motivated to get rid of his enemy. What he really wants is to get rid of his enemy. We know this because he complains about his enemy, Jeremy Ross. He creates an enemy list in his treehouse. And he asks his dad how to get rid of his enemy. His actions and words show us that he wants to get rid of his enemy. So by going back in the story and really thinking about that and identifying the different parts, we are finding evidence. Okay, so all of this is my evidence for why he is motivated. It helps me to figure out his motivation. Let's practice this together. Okay, so right here in this chart, I wrote down what the character said and did in Enemy Pie and what he really wanted. Let's look at that. In Enemy Pie, when we're looking at the actions and words, The narrator says, which is our main character, he says that Jeremy Ross is his first enemy, and he tells the reasons why. Because of the baseball, always striking him out in baseball, and because of the trampoline party he wasn't invited to. And he makes the enemy list. He asks his dad how to get rid of enemies. So these actions and words lead us to what he really wants, which is his motivation. He really wants Jeremy Ross to not be his enemy anymore. He wants to get rid of his enemy. Now, it's not that he wants to get rid of him, as in he wants him to move away or be out of his life, but what he's really feeling is lonely and rejected. Remember last week when we talked about what the character says and does shows us how they're feeling? He was feeling lonely and rejected. And what he is motivated to, what he really wants deep down is for Jeremy Ross to be his friend. So to no longer have an enemy and for him to become his friend. Now let's think about the Can Man. In the Can Man, I want you to think about what Tim, our main character, says and does. That's going to lead you to his motivation. So I would like for your teacher to pause here for about 30 seconds to a minute to discuss this with the class. What does Tim say and do? And how does that lead us to his motivation? Go ahead and pause. Okay, let's see if your answers match mine. I said, Tim worked hard to collect cans. That was his action. And if you remember in the story, he told his parents he still wanted to collect cans even though it was raining outside. That was something that he said. His actions and his words show me that he's motivated because he wants a new skateboard. If you said that, give yourself a silent cheer. Kiss your brain. Now, as our closing, I want to talk again about how you learned to notice what characters say and do, their words and actions, to show what they really want, which is their motivation. As you read independently today, I want you to think about what the characters in the story are saying and doing. I want you to try to figure out what they really want. Here are some questions you can ask yourself. What do you think the character wants based on what they are saying and doing? What are they trying to do? Or what are they trying to get? Okay, so think about that as you're reading this week. Thanks for listening, friends.